Are you enjoying the sunshine?
All right.
Unions are the ones who stand behind us at the back. Union.
Blah, 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 blah. I'll be that shot. Everybody else has to get up, otherwise I'm not going again.
They give me two directions up one, and when I got that way,
Are we going to start fighting? We'll get on.
Best
Go on. Right, see you later.
ANC is a nationalist organisation. Hey, up again.
No, no, he won't be and it won't be a the likes of Johnny Bay.
Well,
That type.
That's organised by Frickney, South Kirby. I remember Joe Green from Kellingley, who were tragically killed by a lorry on a picket line at Ferrybridge. Young Paul Womersley, a Dungeon, who were tragically killed, 12-year-old, digging coal for his mum and dad. Home twins at Goldthorpe, who although the dad didn't work at pit, were digging coal to keep them warm, and they were tragically buried and killed. A lad from my own branch called David Morgan, who were very active in strike and died in tragic circumstances. And in fact anyone else nationally who fought as we all fought in 1984-85, and some of them unfortunately gave the ultimate, the life for what we believed in. And I'd like you all to stand and show a token of respect in a minute's silence for the people who passed away, please. Thank you very much. All your chest problems should be cleared and your varicose veins problems after that march, so with no further ado we'll get the show on the road, and I'd like you to give, as you always do each year, a welcome to David Jones's father, Mark, who would like to say a few words.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you, everybody. I haven't got a lot to say, but it falls on me to say, on behalf of all the families of those who died during that 12-month strike, to say thank you to you all for coming today and paying your tributes and your respects. The strike itself, as we all know, it was not a political one, even though that bitch in number 10 says so. It was about integrity and principle, and it was about communities, which they'll never destroy. And when I look around me today, at the community and the way you've joined in to pay respects to these people today, I'm very proud of you all, and I'd like to say thank you very much. Thank you, every one of you.
We're asking Mark to stay up front because our next speaker, who's become one of the most popular men within National Union Mine Workers since strike, particularly because of the stance they made against terrible odds I'd like you to welcome Henry Richardson, Knox NUM.
Thank you, Frank. Well, on behalf of all the Knox lads that's here today, there's a good contingent again, we bring our fraternal greetings. We know we're always welcome in Yorkshire. In fact, at times we're damn sight more welcoming than we are in Nottinghamshire itself, because the intimidation is still going on. Although, I have to tell you this, we are winning that battle. We've got problems still with non-recognition. It's a terrific problem and a terrific handicap. But our lads will assure you what I'm telling you today, that we are winning the battle for membership. And in fact, there are thousands of men being made redundant in Knox at the present time. But yet we're still holding our membership firm. Although obviously we're losing some members on redundancy and severance, we're recruiting back and holding those numbers. And we estimate, and we might even find that we've overestimated, that I think at the end of this financial year, that the Knox area itself is down to something like 18,000 men to be shared between us and the UDM. Now I can tell you we've got 4,800, so if you do a bit of arithmetic, it's very unlikely that Link's got more than 14,000 men left, and a lot more to go. As I say, the intimidation still goes on, but we have one little bright news we hope. We've got a lad down here, Paul Wetton, as you know Paul, is here today. We had to battle through an industrial tribunal, and we've won the battle, where it said that Paul was dismissed for his trade union activity, and even now the board is still playing the waiting game. Damn team that got the guts to say Paul can have his job back after 32 years working at that pit, but we shall battle on. There are other tribunals in the park line for Jeff Poulter and for Mick McGinty, our vice president, and we intend, it's the only recourse we've got, the tribunal, because the board won't talk to us otherwise, but we shall battle on. Just one word for people who talk about sitting down with UDM. Well, I can tell you this, we're welcoming men back from the UDM and men that work in this strike. In fact, we've got 2 or 3 branch officials that were working miners. But I'll tell you this, we ain't going to sit down without leadership, and I'll tell you why. We've got a problem now. They say that they're democratic. Well, as everybody knows, we've got a ballot on next week for the vice president in the NEC. Now, these Democrats have passed a resolution in their area council that they're going to disrupt that ballot and stop it taking place short of physical violence, they say. These are the Democrats. Now, we've written to them asking for an undertaking that they won't interfere with the ballot. And the reply that we've got back is this, that they're not going to give an undertaking to a union that does nothing but promote violence and is at the present time campaigning for the reinstatement of convicted criminals. Now, I'll tell you that, with that sort of jargon, if people in this union are prepared to sit down with them, then they ought to be ashamed of themselves. And just one last word on behalf of the Knox lads to the Yorkshire area itself. We know that despite all the area difficulties that everybody's got now, particularly in Yorkshire, you've got your own particular problems. But nevertheless, the support and kindness that the Yorkshire miners themselves, and particularly the Yorkshire officials, have given to Knox has helped us battle on. Because I can tell you this, that all the Yorkshire officials, and particularly Jack Taylor and Sammy Thompson at NEC, never give way on the Knox issue. And we know that they won't. And we appreciate that. And our lads know that whatever happens to us, that we've got the Yorkshire lads at the back of us, and I tell you what, it's always spurred us on. And so once again, I want to thank you for allowing us to come along. We know that David died on our territory, and this morning the Ollerton lads have laid the wreath at the spot where David died, and we put a wreath on his grave this morning. And we've always had that affinity, because David died for what he believed in, for what we were fighting for, and it happened to be that he died in Knox, and we shall never forget him, I'll tell you that. And one last thing I want to do, the Ollerton branch where David died outside those gates had a plate made at the end of the dispute which shows the names of the 117 men that stood it out to the bitter end. Every one of these men's named on this plate, and on behalf of the Ollerton branch, I want to present this to Mark, to his family, that he can hang on his wall and remember the Ollerton lads, and we shall remember Davy for the rest of our lives. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Henry and Mark. I'll introduce our next speaker. Some of you may not know him, I think everybody does who's here though. Is the Financial Secretary at Yorkshire area, Ken Homer.
David Jones lost his life fighting on the picket lines at Ollerton in our tremendous struggle for our jobs, our peace and our communities. Since 1983 in December, the Yorkshire area have lost 20,400 men. We've lost 17 pits and 3 workshops. And we had an example set by our Kingsley Drift branch and our Kirby branch by going all the way through the review procedure. And if our other branches who didn't vote had took that action, then the position would have been different today. There's a number of questions that's in front of our union at this time, and the need dealing with in a constructive manner. The first one, the number of lads dismissed. When we went back to work, we had 319 lads dismissed in Yorkshire, and through negotiations, that figure is now down to 124. There's a national review taking place, and we're waiting for the outcome. And if it isn't that our lads are all reinstated, then the fight must go on until they are all reinstated in Yorkshire and in other areas. The second point is regarding wages. When Aslam, the chairman, took over, they said there would be a new approach. Well, where is this new approach? Because the policy remains the same. Our lads haven't had a wage award since we returned to work on time in November. We've had to wait. The first reason was in 1985 that we got to get agreement regarding the pension fund. This year they're talking we can't have agreement because we've got the conciliation procedure to agree to. Well, I tell you where we stand in Yorkshire on that. We want a conciliation procedure that looks after all our members. And that means our comrades in Notts and our friends in Notts. Because they require proper representation like our members do. The next question we come to is with regard to the position regarding the Wheeler Plan. The Wheeler Plan talks about having a 6-day working week to produce coal. It talks about having 9-hour shifts. It talks about having our site contractors to do the bathing facilities, to look into our lamp cabins for dirt disposal. And I ask you, how many times our branches have had to see management because they've had to have outside contractors because we haven't had sufficient men to do the jobs. And that's becoming widespread. And that's deliberate policy. And if our members don't see it that way, then we're in cloud cuckoo land. This plan, the Wheelers, when he's talking about producing coal for 6 days a week, then what are we going to do with coal when we produce it? Because if the market requirement stands at 90 million tonnes as it is now, and 80% of that goes to CGB, then you tell me where we're going to market it. Because I can tell you that the last consultative meeting in South Yorkshire, and this is an area that's making a profit after capital charges, the director said during this year there will have to be coal stocking. So if we're going to produce another 30 or 40 million tonne, or 30-40%, then what are we going to do with it? Obviously we've got to look at it because what the intentions are, and it's as plain as you know the nose on your face. The position is what they're doing. They're preparing us for privatisation. They're preparing us for another pit closure programme. Well, we've had one, you know, we've had to fight. It took us 12 months, and we might have to fight again. The position is regarding what's the best way that we can pay tribute to David Jones and Joe Green and the others. And my view is the best thing we can do is that our membership to get committed and fight together for the policies of the National Union and for conference decisions. And if we do that, then the next point we've got to have a united leadership. And that's why the Yorkshire area are supporting Sammy Thompson for the position of National Vice President. Because we believe that Sammy Thompson can work with the national officials and take our movement forward. So all I will say to you today, that's our members, is stand with the members, stand with your branches, stand with the Yorkshire area, and stand with the National Union. And if we do that, then we can fight all the problems that besetting our industry.
Thanks very much, Ken, for that speech. Our next speaker is sat directly behind me, the Yorkshire Area President, Jack Taylor.
Thank you, Frank. I think that we didn't ought to lose complete sight of why David and Joe Green were picketed that day when they got killed. Because it weren't just a case of them being out there fighting for jobs. They were out there because they believed that the only way we could win that fight was with a united union. Now that fact seems to have lost a lot of people. I'm not just talking about people here, I'm talking about people in other coal fields. The one thing that this union needs at this time is unity. We can only look back at the dispute. The only reason we lost the dispute because we didn't have unity. And we need that unity. And I can tell Henry there's no prospect of me or Ken or Sammy sitting down with that tribe. The only way that we could ever do that would to have been instructed by our members. And I know the men in Yorkshire don't make them sort of mistakes. So there will be no question of us sitting down with them. We have a very close relationship with the people in Nottingham, and they've probably had the dirtiest end of this fight, and we should all remember that them men have fought in very difficult circumstances. They've shown a commitment to everybody, and if that same commitment were being shown today up and down our coalfields, then our problems would be less. My view of the situation regarding the Margam and whatever you want to call it, you can wrap it up in all sorts of terms, is it's not particularly about Margam. It's particularly about changing the Hours Act. That's what it's really about. And if we're going to work longer hours and we're going to fill more coal, and this is basically what they're saying, unless we expand market, I tell you what's going to happen, we're going to shut more pits. And whether they're shut in South Wales or whether they're shut in Yorkshire, it'll be a miner that loses his job. And we should be very concerned about each other's jobs, because in today's society it seems to be something that doesn't really matter. A man's dignity goes and a woman's dignity goes when she doesn't have work. And we should be saying very, very clearly to Coalboard, and we shall meet them, the National Union, we'll meet them next Thursday. We should be saying to them, we are willing and able to discuss any proposition that you put before this National Union. And we should discuss that in the line of what is this union's policy. I can tell you the policy, my policy, and I hope you don't believe everything you read in papers about what's going on, because they do seem to be trying to cause further difficulties. The policy in Yorkshire area, and I agree totally with it, is that we should be looking for shorter hours, we should be looking for shorter days, and we should be looking for more money for our members that do a very difficult and dirty job. We shall not let our members down in Yorkshire, because they have stood by us, we represent them, and but for them we wouldn't be here today. But we've got a further problem that Ken touched on, and I think it's one that I will raise, even though he's raised it, because I've never been on a platform, me, since we went back to work, and sometimes going to mayor meetings and all that sort of thing we go to, it's very difficult to raise the issue of sack miners, but we've managed to do that wherever we've been, because these lads are greatly in need of returning to work. We have got a review procedure at the moment that they're going to deal with even-handed. I only hope, and I might be dreaming a bit, that we are going to get them all back out of this review, because I don't think we are. And we need to say to ourselves, we shall have to go on. There'll have to be a further strategy. We might even, at the end of the road, have to take action on behalf of our sack men. Because as far as I'm concerned, there is no possibility of this union ever get involved in action if you let the sack men down. Because you can't leave your wounded on the field and expect the troops to go into action again. My view is that we've stood by our men a long time. But I'll tell you what, the day will never come when Yorkshire area will let its sack men down, and I'll give you that assurance. I'd like for us to remember why in 47 that we had a national union. It was because we believed then that we could fight the people who were against us better collectively, and I'll tell you what, it's not changed today. Collectively, we can defend our members as they should be defended. The people that want to divide us, well, they need to sit back and look what they're doing, because I tell you, the price we will pay will be one that we might never survive. The national union should be our aim. The national unity should be our aim. If we get them two aims, I'll tell you what, we can have all we want.
Thanks very much, Jack. Could I just say before we proceed any further, particularly for people in stand, if you've got control of young children, while people are speaking, will you keep them quiet? Because there's nothing worse when you stood here trying to put things forward for union to having kids, and we know it's difficult, running up and down, shouting and jumping. So if you can help us with that, we'd be appreciative. You've heard some of the speakers earlier talk about a ballot next week for vice presidency at National Union. And there's a chap running through area called Clark. No relation to me, may I add. Well, we've got a chap who we're putting forward for vice presidency at National Union. He's our General Secretary, and they call him Sammy Thompson. And I'd like you to welcome Sammy Thompson.
Well, thank you, Frank. We're here today mourning the loss of David Jones, Joe Green, and other people that died during our 1984 dispute. I believe today that after that morning that we should make a rallying call from this meeting and gathering today. And I believe that we've had 2 years now since we went back to work, fighting our own corners, pits and workshops, and in areas individually to try to stop the coal board in doing a diktat, in losing jobs, closing pits, and taking away agreements that we fought for and our forefathers fought for. I believe this gathering should be a unity call, that we all gather that together and we go out from here and start fighting together to get back what they've took away from us, and be determined that they're not going to implement unto us what we don't want. First of all, we should say to the National Coal Board and the Tory government that we're not going to accept continental shifts. We're not going to accept a destruction of the 5-day week agreement, and we're not going to have a destruction of the 1908 regulation that regulates how many hours a man will work underground. And we should be saying from here today, we're not accepting it. Well, somebody's mentioned that there's election taking place. And this week, one of the most lunacy policies has been brought out from Peter Walker in granting Sizewell B. It's granted Sizewell B against the wishes of the people of this country. And there's a man that stood in this election, and Frank's mentioned a man called Clark that's talking about a moratorium. Moratoriums mean just that. Moratoriums means a delay or a fudge.
There's thousands of miners' jobs being lost through nuclear power. There's communities all over the British coalfields that's been destroyed through nuclear power. And of course, at last year's annual conference from Scotland, there was a resolution calling for moratorium on nuclear power. And there were an amendment from Yorkshire and from Kent rubbing that moratorium out, and they refused to accept it. And the Yorkshire area pulled out their amendment and supported Kent's. If we'd have gone forward to the Labour Party on a moratorium on nuclear power, we would have been the laughing stock throughout the British and trade union movement. It was been an indictment on our members, on our women's support groups that campaigned up and down through Britain in regards to nuclear power, who had contacts with Labour ward parties, constituencies and trades councils, and they were explaining the dangers of nuclear power. And of course, you see at the Labour Party in 1986, there was a resolution passed to phase out nuclear power. And of course, Stanholm is now saying, if they get into power, they will dismantle Sizewell B and we'll have coal-fired power stations instead. Well, that's the difference between me and him, because I'm totally opposed to nuclear power. Now let me talk about this continental shift working. There's nobody throughout the British coalfields that should be contemplating working a 9-hour shift or working a 6-day week or producing coal on a 23-hour cycle. And if that's going to be, then it should be put to the old total membership and they should decide. It isn't a case for an area to decide whether they're going to have a 6-day week or increased working days. It belongs to the miners. It belongs to the British miners, and they shall have the choice. And we want to take regards of people that fought over 100 years in coal industry against private owners to get a 5-day week. And we know that in 30s, our fathers and grandfathers were working a 2-day and a 3-day week or 11-day month. And they had to be worked on a Saturday and Sunday with no time and a half or double time premium. They were at the whims and fancies of Margaret Thatcher's market forces. And we ain't going to go back to them days where they're going to get diktat, where they're going to destroy our 5-day week agreement or the 1908 Act. Henry's mentioned sitting down with UDM. I'll state my case and make it quite clear. Link and Pendergast, Littrop, Gretrix, Clark, and this comedian in Midlands, what do they call him? Can't think of his name, Emery, is he? He's a comedian, isn't he? Emery. They tried to destroy this National Union of Mine Workers during dispute. They were the leaders of taking our union to court and destroying it, and we finished up with a sequestrator in our offices and a receiver. That's what we finished up with them people. They walked out on this union. They weren't thrown out. They took a decision to walk out to try and destroy our dispute and the National Union of Mine Workers. And they are still trying to destroy the National Union of Mine Workers. And there's no way that I would sit down with them people. At no time would I sit down with them. There's a place in this union for every man that works and woman that works in this industry if they want to join the NUM. But them people, they needn't apply because we don't want them. We don't want them. If it hadn't been for people like them, David Jones would be with us today. He would be with us today along with Joe Green and others. And we would be having a rally today, a celebration of victory. That's what we would be having, not a mourning. So I ask you now, that we get together, pit by pit, workshop by workshop, area and area, and let's call for a national union, and let's tell Haslam that we don't want his conciliation procedure. We want a conciliation procedure that represents every national union of mine worker, wherever he belongs and whatever area he belongs. And he's got to sit down with this union and formulate the 1986-87 wage claim. That's what he's got to do. And we're not having his continental shifts, and we're not having his longer working day. Thank you very much.
After a speech like that, I don't think you need telling who should be next Vice President at National Union. And I would just like to say on that ballot, because there is a ballot next Wednesday, we don't want no complacency, because the ballot will be won in Yorkshire. And if Sammy Thompson's going to be next National Vice President, is the most popular. Arthur Scarden.
Chairman and colleagues, we come here today to honour the memory of David Jones. And in doing that, we associate the names of other people who gave their lives during the mining dispute. In honouring the memory of David, who gave his life in the early part of the 1984 strike at Ollerton Colliery in Nottinghamshire, we should reflect on what he stood for and what he fought for. He argued passionately that there should be no butchery of the mining industry, no job losses, and no destruction of mining communities. His argument, and indeed our argument, has and is for an expanding and developing coal industry, which is not only in the interests of miners, but in the interests of the nation and in the interest of the energy requirements of this nation. There has been much speculation in the course of the past 2 weeks, certainly from members of the media, radio, television and the press, about decisions and actions and recommendations about the hours of work. In order that there is no ambiguity, misunderstanding or equivocation, I want to make the position of the National Union absolutely clear. On the 12th of February 1987, we had a unanimous decision that restated the position of the NUM, which is against continental shift work, against 6-day work, against 9-hour days, and for a 4-day week with no increase on the daily hours. We also said that the organisation of mine workers in South Wales, at Margam, and indeed it applies to any other area, is the responsibility of the area union acting on behalf of the National Union in line with the policy of the NUM. That's our position, and that's where we endorsed our position on Thursday of this week. We also intend to look at the broader issues involved, of the strategy of the board, who are seeking to undermine and destroy agreements in respect of hours and conditions of work. Hours and conditions of work that have been fought for in over a century of struggle by Britain's miners. Now, I could mislead, I could equivocate on issues that are of vital concern, including the central question of wages, but I'm not prepared to do it.
I'll tell you where I stand, and I hope sincerely that the rank and file of the miners associate themselves with it. If you, like I, are fed up to the teeth with not having a wage increase, if you're sick and tired of harassment from the coal board and intimidation, then you should say with a clear and mighty voice, we're getting off our knees and we're going to fight by taking action against poor policy. Chairman, Coal Board have agreed to give to the managers in this industry, in addition to the perks they already receive, full consolidation into their basic wage of all the incentive and bonus payments. The National Coal Board have agreed to consolidate into the basic wage for deputies all incentive and bonus payments, in spite of an undertaking given to this union in 1977. We are still facing a blank refusal to consolidate incentive pay for miners. I say to you clearly, if it's good enough for the manager and good enough for the deputy, it's good enough for miners who produce coal to have incentive pay consolidated into basic pay. Comrades, Sammy Thompson, Jack, Ken, and Henry all touched on the issue of the UDM. Well, Henry, I've got part of the presidential address of the president of the breakaway UDM. And I've no doubt the cameras are turning, and the tape recorders are whirring, and the Fleet Street pencils are sharpened. And I know they're going to reproduce this speech in full. Such is their obsession with the truth. They wouldn't know the truth in the middle of the Sahara Desert looking for a light with a torch full on. Mr. Greatorix, in his presidential address, shall submit it for an Oscar award. He says, I'm getting the impression that the board can't be trusted. Each time, he says, we think we've reached an agreement, the British coal move the goalposts. It's like the referee starting a game under one set of rules and changing them halfway through. He says, though, he's been converted on the way to Mansfield. And then he says this. He said, the honeymoon is over. Well, if the honeymoon's over, it suggests there's been a marriage. I wonder if it was consummated. I certainly knew who was doing what to what. I'm not sure whether we're wearing a condom or not. Comrades, we've been talking about a conciliation scheme in this industry. And the reason the Coal Board want to force their conciliation scheme onto the miners' union is very simple. It's not a complicated issue. A conciliation scheme in very simple terms means the machinery, the procedure by which a mine worker can bring any complaint in respect of wages and conditions through his union to the attention of the Coal Board at every level. It's a method by which he can raise issues. And the Coal Board destroyed at the stroke of a pen the conciliation scheme that we had since 1946. And they now want a new scheme, which will only recognize, they say, the majority at a pit in any particular union. So that if you've got a colliery in Notts with 51% in the breakaway UDM, they'll have recognition, and the 49% in the NUM will be denied recognition for free collective bargaining. Well, there are two very good reasons why you should oppose the Coal Board's proposition. The first is a basic trade union principle. You cannot possibly contemplate signing away the right to represent mine workers who stood solidly with this union in 1984 and 5, and there's no way you give away a right to represent miners. And secondly, in 1986, we were able to win a historic case in the Court of Appeal that established the right of a member of our union to bring a case for equal pay in the event of the Coal Board giving to a member of the breakaway UDM a wage rise. So that if they award the UDM £5 or £10 a week and they don't award it to the NUM at the moment, we've got the right under Section 23 to bring a case for equal pay. If you sign an agreement accepting the Coal Board's proposals, you sign away the right of every mine worker in the NUM to bring a case for equal pay in the event of the Coal Board giving a higher rate to the breakaway than they do to the NUM. And you know, as I know, that the Coal Board in those circumstances would give more succour to a company outfit by offering them more than they would the NUM. We should say, no way do we accept a conciliation scheme, but we're prepared to accept a scheme based on the principles of the one in operation in 1946. Colleagues, in honouring the memory of David Jones, I want to draw from that the lessons both of longer term and shorter term history. Yes, it's important that we struggle to retain the jobs that we have and the pits that we have. Yes, it's important that we continue the campaign for the reinstatement of all sack miners. And let me tell those in our organisation, if they'd listened to me in 1985, they wouldn't have withdrawn the overtime ban until every miner was back at work, secure in his employment. That's the lesson that you've got to take into consideration. The media over the past 2 weeks have been having a field day with the smear campaign directed once again against the President of the NUM. I was asked yesterday in the North East how I react to such attacks and to such venom. I'll tell you my reaction in the closing remarks to this gathering. When people like the filth of Fleet Street, when the media in total begin to attack me and smear me and vilify me and my family, I know that the values and the ideals for which I stand and for which David Jones stood are the kind of ideals that I'll cherish. I will not prostitute my principles. Long may they hate me. Long may the miners support me.
Thank you very much, Arthur, for another marvellous speech. Before I close this rally, I'd just like to say a few thank yous. First of all, I'd like to thank Mark and Doreen Jones and the family, who allow us to have this rally in memory of David, and we know it must be a traumatic experience and keep upsetting him, but we appreciate that they get involved as they do and have now become more involved in Labour Party, etc., and are a credit to the community. That's both Mark and Doreen. I'd like to thank Frickney Athletic Club for allowing us the facilities that we've got today. Also Frickney Band, who played from setting up to finishing and did a marvellous job on March. I'd like to thank all our guest speakers and two who you haven't seen, Derek Reeves, Area Agent for North Yorkshire, and Frankie Cave, Area Agent for South Yorkshire. More important than anything, I'd like to thank you for making it such a marvellous success. Just one thing before we close. There's going to be another election in the near future for a new government, and irrespective of what you hear on TV or read in newspapers, the Labour Party must be elected, and we don't want complacency on that. And don't be kidded on with SDP on March. We're not having them. Labour must get in. Don't forget at the next election. Thank you all for coming. If you go to Empire Working Men's Club, there's a buffet on for anybody who wants refreshments, and we'll see you down there. And finally, the Wayfield and District Anti-Apartheid Group have a meeting on the 19th of March at 7:30 with a speaker from the ANC, South Africa. Thank you, everybody.
Jim.